Hey guys, welcome to Brian's Man Cave. So today I want to talk about video games and money. Um, well, this kind of came to me because I was looking on Twitter, and somebody I follow on Twitter raised a point about video games and kind of like the arcade games and the microtransactions, and just talking about the differences of the past and versus the arcades. And they made a point that the original arcades kind of were based on the whole microtransactions, which makes sense because if you think about it, when you went to the arcade, you always had to have that fistful of quarters. And I'm talking about the arcades that played games like the classics, like Cubert, the old arcade games that Defender, all like Pac-Man, Donkey Kong. You had to bring your fistful of quarters. And if you wanted to keep playing and keep continuing, you had to have that money on hand. And especially if you're going for things like the high score. And we saw this in like, say, the documentary, The King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters, where Billy Mitchell even said it. He's like, Donkey Kong is just pure brutality. Most people don't even make it past the first board. Games were designed that way. They were designed intentionally to be hard so that you would lose and then you'd want to put in that quarter. And it wasn't even just that era of gaming because, I kind of grew up in that era, but I also grew up in the 90s as well, playing like games like Chase HQ and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and RoboCop. I played all those arcade games, and it was the same thing. I mean, the games were brutal. You could not get past like the second stage without having to at least throw in another couple of quarters every once in a while. You had to make sure you counted your quarters before you went in, or had something to go to that guy that was sitting there behind the booth, ready to dispense all those coins out to you so you can keep paying money to keep playing these video games. And of course, a lot of that has changed over the years. We still have them. We still have these arcade games. I still go to places like Dave and Buster's, and we have a few. There's one called Game Time, which is near our house. Same deal. There's a Rec Room. There's a lot of these places. They still exist today, but they've morphed. It's no longer about the score. It's no longer about besting a score or getting really good at asteroids or missile command. I mean, they have these games. They have them peppered around. And, I've seen them. There's like a giant Space Invaders, and there's a few that are like classic arcadey style, but most of them, no, they're more like 50-50 or not even that much. Some of them it's just like good luck, put in your, it's not even coins anymore. You don't even have coins anymore. Now it's just a wristband or a card you swipe, and it's all about trying to get tickets to win crap. But it's the same concept. You want to keep playing, you got to keep forking out the dough. And modern gaming, I'm not a big modern gaming person. I've talked about this many times. It's a little bit out of my league. I don't really care too much about modern games, but I do still kind of watch and follow along with what's happening in the industry. And there's all this talk about DLC and stuff like that, and when you buy a game, it's not truly the game. It's just like the base of the game. And if you want to get anywhere, you're gonna have to start. You have to open up an account. You're gonna have to start spending money. You're gonna have to you want to advance. Oh, if you want the better weapons, if you want the better this, if you want to skip a stage or whatever, start forking out the cash. And that's just where it went. And it's easy to say, well, this is crap. Why are we spending money? Why do I have to keep paying money? Why do I could have my console at home. But even then, even back then, like I do remember when I played, good old Nintendo. I still had, even though I had a console at home, I had the Nintendo at home, I had my Atari, I had my Commodore 64 at one point. I still went to the arcade and I still pumped money in. When I went to my family cottage, there was a little tiny arcade in the town, and I would go there all the time when I was on vacation and, at my cottage, and I would still bring a sack full of quarters with me, and just, that's when I started playing Chase HQ, one of my favorite arcade games, racing game, where you're a cop and you have to catch the crooks, and they're in like a Lamborghini and you're in a Porsche. I really enjoyed that game, and I kept putting in quarters. I never got to the end of it. I could not. In fact, the only time I've ever got to the end of that game was when I got it on an emulator on MAME on my PC, and I was able to have endless continues because I'd always run out of money. It would always happen. Even RoboCop, again, one of my favorite arcade games, I could pretty much get to the third level, and even that took a lot of quarters, a lot of money. And I'm talking, this is like the early 90s where quarters actually meant something. I mean, today a quarter is nothing. Who cares? But back then, a quarter was still something. You had a bunch of those. You could buy yourself some food and stuff. Today, I don't even think I'd even bend over to pick up a quarter. But anyways, yeah, I remember playing RoboCop a lot, and I'd luckily get to the third stage, and I would never get past that. And again, I've only ever completed that game when I had it on the emulator on my PC, and I remember getting past the stage where I could never get by because I always ran out of money. And I was playing this going, oh my goodness, I am dying every second. And I was thinking as I was playing it, like, that's a quarter, that's a quarter, that's a quarter. And that adds up. That is money. That is money that I would have been spending to try and pass that game. I even remember the Ninja Turtles, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade, which is now, you can get that on the Arcade 1-Up. But I also remember trying to play that game and not getting very far. And, it was like a 4-player game, so you could have 4 people playing it. And I think I remember only one time I was at the arcade and these group of guys were playing it. I don't know how much money they put in there. They must have put a lot. But they did make it to the end. I saw them facing the shredder, and I was just like blown away. I was like, oh my goodness, look at that. They're at the end of the game. And I don't think I've ever would have had enough money to ever do that. And so, yeah, it did make sense that back in the day, yeah, we were pushing in a lot of coins to play video games. And it kind of makes sense that even when the home console came out, when we had the Atari, when we had the Intellivision, ColecoVision, games were expensive. They were not cheap. I mean, even, and I know that. I know the costs that goes into these. And, I got, like, my game, my Napoleonic Wars, me and a bunch of people spent a lot of money making this game, and it's we had to sell it for $70 US, and a lot of people are like, that's a lot of money. I'm not going to spend that kind of money, and I get it. It's like video games can be expensive, whether you're investing in something like a homebrew product or you're investing in the brand new Nintendo Switch game which comes out, and they're like, what, a Switch game today, brand new, like a top-notch one, like the Mario Odyssey type of games and the Zelda games, they're fetching like $80-90 US for a brand new game. That's a lot of money. And so video games, yeah, are expensive, and they kind of always have been. But in the middle of that, there is a lot of games that are not expensive. Of course, if you want to just play the old games, you can just emulate them now. You can pretty much find the ROMs anywhere on the internet. You can get the emulators anywhere on the internet. You could pay nothing to play all the classic games, all the classic Nintendo, all the classic whatevers, even the arcade games. But there's still something to wanting to actually go in and play on a physical machine. I loved finally getting the opportunity to play on an original Donkey Kong machine. And I was perfectly fine with that. I would put quarters into that kind of thing. But times have changed, and I get it. Today, it's no longer about the machines themselves. It's now about all this online, gotta pay to play, the game's not complete. And no matter how you slice it, video games are a business. The people who make video games are in business. It's all about money. It's all about making money. It's always going to be about money. Even if the people doing it are passionate about video games, it's going to be about the money. But that's just something I thought of, I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to hear what your perspective was. What do you think? What do you think about the fact that in the past we used to shove quarters into machines, and then today we're now connecting our bank accounts to these DLC accounts just to, or whatever it is that modern games take money to play. You're not going to get anywhere unless you pump up some account. Games even like Minecraft and what's the other one? There's a bunch of them. I've forgot them all. Anyways, let me know what you think. Throw some comments down below. Oh, Roblox. That's the other one. Roblox. Man, I spent money on Roblox and it wasn't for me. Anyways, throw some comments down below. Hope you subscribe. We'll talk to you later.